Nordic Warriors. Alright. Let's see what it's got. The training ground. Sure, we'll pick warrior. Sometimes it's better to avoid a fight if you can. I don't actually...
Welcome to Nordic Warriors.
Oh boy.
Please follow the instructions. The camera is your point of view. Mastering the camera controls is crucial for effective gameplay. Use the W and S keys to move forward and backward. Yes, that's very good.
Yes.
Use the A and D keys to move left. Yes, that's right. Use the Q and E keys to orbit or great.
Yeah.
You are in control. Use the mouse scroll wheel to zoom in and excellent. To change the camera angle, hold the Tab key or the middle button of your mouse. Very good.
Tab, that Y, that's really...
This is your warrior. Notice the map on the bottom right corner.
Yeah.
The blue dot represents your warrior.
I never would have guessed.
Red dots are enemy units. The yellow trapezoid is your field of view. Select the warrior with the left mouse button.
Yeah, it's very
blue
old
circle
school
means that he's
tutorial, yes.
selected. To make your warrior stop any action, press the spacebar. Good. He stopped. Now, move him next to the training dummy by clicking the right mouse button on the ground. Excellent. Right-click the training dummy to attack it.
Bleed. Attack. Die, scum.
Perfect. Now it's broken. Your enemies won't be as easily defeated. You can select multiple units by double-clicking or marquee selecting. Select your warriors and right-click on one of the training dummies to attack them. Great. Now they are all broken. Formations are essential for skillful gameplay.
Right.
Select all of your warriors. Press the 1 key, the line formation. And right-click on... Well done. By dragging the mouse with right-click, you can choose the angle of formation. Now press the 2 key, the double line formation.
Oh my god, are you kidding me? It's going to make me go through all the formations.
Formation presets let you quickly select groups of units. Select several units and hold the F1 key to assign them. Good.
Right away.
Deselect the units. Now,
as you
press
wish.
The F1 key.
I am.
That's very good.
So be it.
The alchemist unit can throw grenades and plant mines. Select the alchemist and attack the training dummy.
Will do.
Would you get up here and actually maybe do something? Okay.
Select the alchemist and attack the training dummy.
I will have my revenge.
Freaking did. What are you doing?
Charge!
Watch out for friendly fire.
All right.
Now move the alchemist near the
Say no
exploded
more.
dummy. Press the R key to place the mine on the ground. Great.
All right.
Move the alchemist away from the press control key and left click on the mine.
Say no more. Will do.
What in the hell?
Yes.
Press control key and left click on the mine.
All right. Attack!
Haha, you've done it. The shaman is the main hero of our story.
On my way.
If she dies,
Yes.
the game is over. She has 3 unique magical abilities. Select the shaman and attack the dummy. Wow, you really need to watch out for friendly fire. The shaman can heal her allies. Select the shaman, press the R key, and left click on the wounded warrior.
All right.
You saved him. You can also convert a werewolf to be your ally.
Right.
Select the shaman, press the T key, and left. Well done. You can use the C and X keys to decrease or increase the pace of the game. Now feel free to practice what you've learned.
On my way.
When you're done, move a unit
Kill
to
them.
the entrance of the house to exit the tutorial. You've finished the basic tutorial. Now, let the bloodshed begin.
Will do. Death comes for ye. All right.
Yes. To battle.
There's an extra dummy out here though.
Charge.
So this is like some kind of actiony. I'll go back here. Actiony RTS
I will
type
have
game.
my revenge.
Going.
Will do.
Understood.
Yes.
Where's his? Man, what absolutely
You are
unnecessary
victorious.
exposition. It's like a tutorial for people who've never played video games before.
It was the beginning of winter. The darkening sky brought cold winds and falling leaves. Freya and her warriors had just returned to Chaos from a 3-day search of the forest with no success. It had been days since the foraging party failed to return on time. Where could their missing friends be? As they approached home, Freya felt something was wrong. In fact, she had never felt like this before, as if someone was squeezing her insides, making it hard to breathe. Perhaps they were just tired from the road, she thought, but it was quiet. Too quiet. She looked into her friend's eyes and confirmed something was definitely wrong.
Has that cliche ever not been that exact same thing? It was quiet. Too quiet. Has anyone ever said it was quiet, but not unusually?
Yes.
Right.
No, 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 no. No, no, no.
On
What
my
the hell
way.
are you doing?
Casualty.
Oh, okay.
As you wish.
You have been defeated.
Oh, okay. I appear to have gotten my guy killed. Great.
Yes.
Right away.
It's where the zombies come from then.
Coming.
Yes.
Get them.
Understood.
Right. All right. Yes.
Right. All right.
On my way.
So is there what is the left control? Left control. Convert a werewolf T. Like what the hell is this? Left control is it your control scheme? Elsa, left control. How do I swap between multiple characters then?
All right. Of course. Don't let them escape.
Attack! Right.
Attack.
I think I'm probably
Yes.
doing more damage to myself.
All right.
So be it.
Alright, let's...
This way. Of course.
I
On
mean,
my way.
to the hall, maybe?
On my way. Yes.
Will do.
Oh boy.
So be it.
On my way.
Casualties have been defeated.
Okay. I've had enough. It's kind of like those bullet hell vampire survivor type games mixed in with, I don't know, kind of like the action role-playing game stuff like Diablo. Eh, not really my thing. And the fact that you lose if a very squishy, vulnerable character gets killed? Are you kidding me? I don't know if it was a hit in the US specifically, but I remember seeing a lot of it on YouTube. So I would assume it was just kind of a everybody's played this game sort of thing. Alright, we better turn off the audio again. Oh, I don't know. I don't know about this one. Oh, we can keep that up, lower. Wow, okay, so your music options are actually not 0 to 100%. It's more like 50% to 100%. Okay, get out of here. First thing you see. Big old ship boobies. I don't even know how there we go. Go to scene. Terran, there it is. Oh, you'll see. You'll see in a minute. Get out of that. Go to scene. There it is. Yep. Big old ship boobies. New campaign. I guess. Oh man. You know what? We'll just keep it. Whatever's going on there. Fury. Sure. Start the game. Okay, now unlike the last game, this one I'm probably going to need someone to hold my hand and tell me what I'm looking at here. I think this is a 4X game. That's really good there. Dark gray text on a black background. That is excellent visibility right there. Objective, Conquest. Your objective is to advance your organization and expand your influence across the galaxy, conquering all other factions. You work toward this goal by controlling and improving your star systems. Oh boy, there's a video walkthrough and an intro tutorial. I mean, maybe we should just watch the videos. Oh, okay, that's going to open you up that way. Well, let's do an intro tutorial then. The status bar displays key information about your organization. Each new system, fleet, and station has its associated costs and gains. Credits and resources. Key production. Capacity. Oh boy. Okay, so standard 4X stuff. Actions cannot be done while the game is paused. That's fun. Okay, this is not a game to figure out on stream. This is not a game to figure out on stream. This is going to be too crazy here. All right. Well, if I can get out of this damn thing. Is there a way to get out of the tutorial? Thank you. Don't save. Well, I mean, it just looks like a generic Space 4X game, to be honest. I've got plenty of those. So, and then I can't move out. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. If you're willing to put in a few hours to learn how to play, the game can be a lot of fun. Alright, we'll just cancel that one then. Alright, well, what else do we have here? Let's head into my GOG library. I guess I can just go for the first one that I see here. This doesn't really look like my kind of game, but whatever. Let's try them all. It's going to take a while, probably. And separate patches? No, okay, no. We're not going to be doing that. How about this one? If it'll open. Okay, and it's small. Okay, the stream might go a little crazy as this is downloading. Maybe not. I mean, I may as well. I'm not going to do it in my own time. Just take a peek and see if it's even worth playing. A lot of these games that I've got on my GOG.com account came from like the freebies they gave away during the pandemic. And then they occasionally, I think they give away a game every month anyway. Okay. Oh, you know what? Forgot to turn on. Okay. Can we skip this? Oh, good. It's there's no mouse controls at all. That might be. This is called Haven Park, and it is not letting go of my mouse. That's fantastic. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. There. Okay. Hopefully that doesn't screw with the stream when I do that. Okay. Keyboard only controls. We'll see. So this looks like it's kind of like an Animal Crossing wannabe clone. It says it's tiny, so who knows how big this is. How much game there is. Do you remember? You were just a child. Spending long summer afternoons slowly reading intro text. Imagining your own adventures. I barely remember. Grandma. That could have been one sentence. I don't really feel ready. The music is getting louder. I mean, this is too much for me. Flint. I was about your age when I started to take care of the park. I felt overwhelmed. Took me years to understand something. I didn't take care of this place. And now, like all boomers, I'm leaving it to later generations to fix my mistakes. This place took care of me. I want this to be over so I can go back into the audio settings and lower the music again. I'll try my best. Look around you. We've been looking around for the last 5 minutes. Listen! There's a coin over on that hill. A beautiful day is about to start. Oh my god. So, press E. Continue the one sentence at a time dialogue. How should I get started? You remember where the campsites are? No. It's okay. You can find them by starting Sunshine Cove. Sunshine Cove is the closest camp from here. Go west, you'll find it. What else can I do? I haven't been able to do much lately. Many things are probably broken. Fix them. Okay, I'm sure you'll find your way. Now go! Use the directional keys to move. Is that what they're for? This is as fast as I can go, too. I guess I'll follow the... Hey, coin. E to collect. E to collect. E to collect. Fuck. I don't have wood. E to collect. E for a hint. Space to jump. Thank you, invisible voice. You couldn't have just... Why was that necessary? Why was that necessary? Hey, click E and I'll tell you to hit space, not just hit space. My god. 10 experience. Metal and fabric. Can I find at least one more stick to fix that sign? If I don't do it now, I'll never remember. Yeah, we're getting lost. Push the rocks over. Pew pew. Hey. Metal and fabric. That's not sticks. You'd think it'd be real easy to find a lot of wood in a forest, but I don't know. Sunshine Cove. One. Mile marker, I guess? Streetlight. You completed the quest. Level 1. Skill point. I should add it to my map. I see. I'm gonna need a campfire too, by the look of it. Light the fire. Sure. A new camper arrived. So it's kind of got the same vibe as the Animal Crossing camper game. Where's the camper, though? A new camper there. Hey, hey. Welcome to the park. Simply walk north and you'll find yellow fields, okay? I'm guessing that's all the stuff. I need to find one more camper. Like, it'd be kind of nice to tell me what that is over there. I guess we can have a bench. Here. Or here. Maybe. These are really, really awkward controls. And then we need something for dining, I guess. Like a barbecue. I need more metal. I've been wasting it on streetlights. Well, I guess we can knock one down. Maybe. This is as fast as I can go. Holy crap. Nope, I can't. Okay. There's a bench. I can swim. Okay. There's a medal. So how do I gain access to that? Maintain the park, find all the camps. How do I... Action. Map is tab. Okay. But how do I access my skills? I'm starving. There's no place to eat. I'm working on it. You got a campfire. What do you mean there's nothing to eat? Restock it. Okay. Collect the coins. I mean, that seems like I've done the business here. Oh, okay. So they come here, they pay for it. Okay. I don't know how to access my skills, though. I've been unlocking stuff by boosting levels. This must be like campsite 2, campsite 1, that sort of thing. Okay, well, it just says keep going north, so I guess we'll just keep going north. The new campsite. We only need one location, okay? Let's make a TP. To the canyon, okay? How far will it let me go? Not far. Ah, okay, so that's not really that intuitive. But you need to light a campfire as a signal to bring people here, it looks like. Hello. I don't know. I guess more? Building the benches actually seemed to work for whatever that symbol is. That very unintuitive symbol. I don't know what the celebration thing is. I guess decoration. Palm tree, fence. There. Camp is done. Can't get up there. A new camper arrived at the Western Creek. Okay. I don't have resources. Hey. How do I get up to that bridge? Yeah, I guess so. Like, I don't really see... Press escape to... Ah, okay. There we go. Salesmanship. Trade resources at any marketplace. That sounds good. Okay, a little hidden thing there. I'm not really sure, like... This isn't very Animal Crossy at all, really. Not what I thought it was going to be. Like, I thought you'd build a camp, people would move in, and you'd have a little place. But what it just seems like is a very simple puzzle game where you're out trying to collect stuff so that you can complete your camps, and then you just move on. I can't even sit in the benches. Like, I can't craft a butterfly net. I'm not really sure what the point of this game is. This feels like some little, you know, one of those 24-hour game-making contest kind of things. New camp, the wishing well. Time to make a wish. How do I do that? I wish. Wait, how many wishes do I have? Is there someone in the camp? Or in the well? Hmm. Yeah, this is weird. It's like a walking simulator with things to do. I can't even read this? 7. We are far out of the way. Somehow I did a lot of this without even... Oh, is that... Can I teleport? No. The fire seems to... Okay, it's not lit. So, you light the fire at each of them, that check marks it, and then you do... What? I'm like, I completed the thing. Oh, hey, a car. Abandoned car. Another bench that you can't sit in. Hey, wait. Get up it. Go along the ridge line. What looks like a hidden one over here. To a farm field? What is this? Number 8. The farm campsite, I guess. There's a letter over there. A letter? E for a hint. Campsite 10. Yellow fields. Carrying too much. Okay. A new camper has arrived. Time to leave. Yeah, I don't blame you. There's nothing to do here. New quest, hide and seek. Oh, what the hell? Okay. There's a new camper there. Let's move this down to here. Let's actually move that. Move that over by the barbecue. Okay. Some kind of sacred firefly grove over here. Oh, the mushrooms. It's just mushrooms that glow in the dark now. Fabric. It might just be Twitch that is lagging. Sorry, I wasn't paying attention to chat here. Master Builder, unlock new buildings, sure. So there's an awful lot of stuff to unlock for what this game so far seems like it offers. Like, do these resources replenish over time? They have to. There's no way there's enough for me to collect out here. New camp, the atoll. Okay, but where? I guess it's here. Number 12. What's our map anyway? Where are we? Way up there. I'll sleep on the ground. Hammock, bungalow? Sure, let's make a nice little bungalow here. And a tiki bar, sure. Some kind of activity. Do a swing. And it's done. Haven't met this guy because he's sleeping. That is kind of weird. Alright, well, you know, I think we've sort of seen everything that this can offer here. Enough resources, okay. Back in the hayfields again. Yeah. Well, I mean, this is a very casual. Hey, wait a minute. Did we not? So we got the atoll repaired fully? I don't know what that means. It's a very casual game. Um, Interesting concept, but it feels empty. You know, like with the Animal Crossing, what is that called? The one with the camp. It's an app. Anyway, like with that one, you know, you make your little campsites. People come, and you kind of you make friends with them, and then it's a little place, right? And then you spruce it up and all that. And this feels like it's trying to take the idea, but not the execution. Like you just kind of hang around and you build stuff, and people come, and you just you know it's another numbers go up kind of deal. Like it doesn't feel alive. It doesn't feel like there's really anything to this. I do like sort of the daily stuff though. Like you know, it transitions from day to night. There's kind of a reason for having light sources and whatnot, but I don't know. Like I said, this feels very much like somebody's eat a blow. Oh, dandelion. This feels like someone's uh, game contest entry. It's, it's all right, but pocket camp, yeah, maybe. I think that's what it is. I don't know. Got someone arriving at the wishing well. A wooden cabin. This is a big old thing. Place to rest. Bench by the fire. Eh, let's go with no, I can't do picnic table. Okay, bench it is then. Can look at the little wishing well pond. Then food. I don't have enough materials. I think that's the most annoying part. You very clearly, hey, no, wake up. I built you a cabin. The lack of materials in abundance to build all this stuff. Like it feels very deliberately limited. And how did I end up there, but I can't make my way to the west? I don't know. Like, you know, like I had the ability to build all these camps and just spam them down, take them to level 2, whatever. But now I'm out of resources. It doesn't feel like I've progressed very much. And it feels like it's making me go slow. Because this otherwise could be a relatively quick game. What skill points can I spend here? Coin collections, find more coins, find more metal, find more wood. Okay. I guess I see that now. Get oh, damn it. Get resources when... There. Get resources when tearing down buildings. I don't know why I'd want to do that. See further while exploring. Sure. Wow. I bought zoom out. I bought zoom out as a feature. There's a coin down there. All that for that? E for a hint. There's a landslide here. Oh, good. Oh, come on. I don't even know what the coins are for yet. I don't think I've found anything. Obviously, it must be something later. I'm curious what the find more X means, because I picked up metal and it only gave me one. So it's not like it gives you more for when you discover it. I hope this isn't a mistake. Okay. Is this even a thing? There's an island out here. There's more island out here. I think that takes me... Oh, well, there's something up there. There's a campsite. The Willows Beach campsite. Huh. Okay, well, I think I've had enough of this. There's a little pathway up here. Where are we? Down, way down there. This doesn't go anywhere. Okay. Well, yeah, it's kind of a cute idea, but I don't know, it just doesn't feel like there's a lot here. Unless what you're supposed to do is just, stay at a camp, let people come to it for a while, grow it. You're carrying too much, okay. And then move on from there. Just take a very slow pace to the game. Build a TP. Hammock. Well, there's the camper, and then they decide not to be here. That's great. I can see a coin shadow floating up there, too. No. Here, don't go. Don't go falling off the edge. Did that not count? It's not an activity. A swimming pool. Yeah, right next to the beach. Why not? Where'd that camper go? Oh, and disappeared. What the hell? Oh, she teleported. Great. No. Okay. Well, yeah, that's enough for me. Oh, let's see what else we can do here. Yeah. Well, I don't know. There's always something new in that game, so it compels you to keep moving forward, but it's not easy to move forward. Okay, I think I can assign that to that one. Let's see. That is too big. Okay. Let's open this. Wow. It is very loud. Enable analytics. Why the hell would I want that? Well, maybe. I don't know. I'll leave it on by default. I don't know what that is. Yeah, I guess I always just need to leave that. Oh, good. This is one of those games. Transsiberian, how about that one? What if I turned it into a window game? There you go. It's kind of annoying. Oh boy. Okay. Switch. Okay. Wanderlust. Transsiberian. Start a new story. Might be, yeah. This is like a walking story simulator. Henry's story. Okay, spill some sunflower oil. Start off. Alright, okay. It took us a while to find the right place, but Vernon had insisted on doing it. In fact, he was determined to do everything that could be done in Moscow. And high on his list was spilling sunflower oil on the tram tracks at Malaya Brunaya Street. Yeah, we're just going to go with that. Near Patriarch's Ponds. I indulged him, but why? I asked, flabbergasted. It was something from his favorite book, one of the greatest literary masterpieces of all time, The Master and Margarita. And when it came to books, it took a lot of effort to talk him out of anything. He had a charm about him. I just tried to keep up with him, even if the facts were against him. That's very pessimistic. Yes, we'll be pessimistic. This is, hold on. We are getting really loud again on the music. Resume. There were no trams to Malaya since the 30s, but he stubbornly spilled a bit of sunflower oil on the street anyway as he dragged me through Moscow. We never found a severed head. What? But I almost expected to see one as we walked through the city, my brother-in-law excitedly pointing out locations from the book and regaling me with an endless stream of trivia. Comrades, talking black cats, Jesus, asylums, Pontius Pilate, tram, Satan, and of course, severed heads filled our conversations as we made our way through the city. One day was more than enough. I'm annoyed now. One day was more than enough for me. Vernon wouldn't shut up, and I really wasn't that interested in Russian literature. It wasn't that what I'd expected from the trip. On the other hand, I wasn't sure what to expect. The two of us never had traveled together before. I didn't travel much outside of work. I had my doubts. And I was right. But we were family, I guess. This is supposed to be short, so I don't know. I had my doubts, but even with Susan gone, we were still family. Who's Susan? Moscow was a nightmare. Streets built to hold parades, too wide and too imperial. Pavements colonized by cars and clogged with faceless crowds. Signs written in letters I couldn't read and wasn't sure of. Too much poverty, too much gold. Voices that were too loud, smiles that were too wide. Fangs that were too sharp. Eyes too bright. Except the music doesn't really fit. Finally, it was over. We came to Russia because Vernon insisted. He said that this was my chance to see the country with my own eyes. No camera, no work assignments. So far, I was not impressed. Time would tell. But that was all the time we had for sightseeing. The next day, we headed straight for the train station. Catch the train. Not causing trouble, not touching anything. Komsomolsk in the square contained, for reasons I couldn't quite understand, 3 completely different railway stations. We headed towards the huge building marked Yaroslavsky Station. The bombastic buildings managed to make the worst from both Russian revival and Stalinist architecture. People swarmed around us, loud, angry, exhausted, and most with luggage in tow. Any hope of keeping the inundated melange even remotely clean had long since been abandoned, leaving the once monumental station a dirty, repulsive sight to behold. This is very chipper music for what is supposed to be really... whatever. We need to get tickets. We made the reservations long in advance, obviously, but we had no choice but to pick the tickets up at the station. Of course, deciding which tickets we needed 3 months in advance was a bit of a headache. We considered 2 routes. The shorter one was only 6 days and 22 minutes long. Take the shorter route, take the longer route? Let's take the short route. It was almost a day faster than the alternative. We chose the shorter route. Makes me wonder what the longer route would take us through. I still can't believe you made me pick this route, said Vernon, his voice as loud as always. He always said everything with a slight chuckle. Oh good, he's Dr. Hibbert from The Simpsons. But I couldn't tell if it was sincere. You could never be sure with Vernon. He was the type of person who wouldn't show you they were upset, even if a landmine tore off their foot. That is a very strange way of putting that. What I could tell for sure, though, was that no matter what I'd chosen, he wouldn't have been satisfied. Oh, good, it's one of those games. We'll regret this, you'll see. You'll all regret it. We'll wish that this trip lasted longer, that we met more people, we saw more places. I seriously doubted that. We'll see, I sighed, trying to be diplomatic. The route wasn't the only issue. There was also the matter of which class we'd be traveling in. First class would allow us to have a compartment to ourselves. We'd have to share with 2 other passengers in second class. There was also third class, where Platzkartny. A huge sleeper car with no compartments, just a few dozen passengers sleeping in rows. There was something exotic about the idea. Of course, my preference was clear. First class. I opted for first class. I didn't want to be bothered by other people all the time, and Vernon had just gotten out of the hospital. We could use some luxury. Man, there's all this extra stuff, like, who's Susan? Why is he out of the hospital? Was it a car crash that killed him and his wife? Is he my brother-in-law? Is he actually brother? I don't know. It just says we're family. No, we need to see that. This actually reads kind of like someone's writing prompt that they turned into a game. Like, it's not a fully fleshed story, they just started... We need to see this country, he insisted, and the most important part of any country is its people. I want to meet as many people as possible. Sorry, Henry, but it's got to be the Pletskarnskis. I stuck to my guns. Fuck you. You just got out of the hospital, I reminded him, and you're still limping. We'll need a little more comfort. Listen, we can go with first class if you want, but don't try to put it on me, Vernon shot back. You can just say that you don't like being around people very much. I know you don't. Then why the hell would you want to surround me, you jerk? I shrugged and took my little victory. After all, Vernon wasn't really the planning type. If only Susan was still alive. Maybe Susan would have handled the situation with more grace. She'd spent her whole life honing the skill of dealing with her brother. Oh, okay. It'd been almost a year since she left us. We'd been doing our best to get by without her, and now that the decisions had been made and the tickets were in our hands, their weighty, gilded card reassuringly luxurious, we only had to board the train. We've got a golden ticket. As we entered the train, each of us was given a teacup. No matter the class you were traveling in, it was your inalienable right to be equipped with one. I say a teacup, but it was more a glass in a metal holder. Mine was decorated with celebrations of Gagarin's spaceflight and Vernon's with motifs of the 70th anniversary of the October Revolution. Want to trade? He asked, looking at my cup, childish as ever. I didn't give a shit. Sure, why not? I said indifferently. They're just cups, you know. Vernon sighed. But the Gagarin glass had a special place on the small table next to our bunks for the rest of the journey. As we made our way into the car, we passed the boiler, which stood from floor to ceiling in a corner by the crew's compartment. I was expecting an ornate samovar to match the teacups, but it was just a shoddy old boiler. The whole train looked dilapidated. In the days to come, we'd be there with our teacups a lot, and with noodles, instant soups, or with packets of extra sweet Russian kissel. Apart from the restaurant car, it was the only way to eat anything warm. We went to look for our seats. Everything will be all right. When we got to the compartment, Vernon seemed disappointed. There's not enough people in here, he complained. I love people, packed in like sardines. You'd have thought the first class in the famous Transsiberian Railway would look fancier, he said, putting his suitcase on the luggage rack. I shrugged. It's a train, Vernon, I shrugged. A 21st century train, not some 19th century fantasy of yours. Would you stop treating me like an idiot? I know where we are. I'm talking about expectations, that's all. The compartment looked pretty normal. There were 2 blue couches, a table, a window, and luggage racks over our head. And no other people, thank God. Time zone, +0. Once again, I was blown by the sheer size of Moscow, and the orange light of street lamps, the mad mosaic of monumental architecture, and post-communist blocks of flats looked as if it was burning. As we left the hum and glow of Moscow behind us, the world outside turned pitch black. We turned off the lights. I could see our distorted reflections in the glass, a darker me, a darker Vernon, a twisted version of the compartment. We passed fields, forests, and villages with outstanding, ruthless pace. Do your own thing for a while or just socialize. It seems like it's progressing the story without me anyway. So that's just more extra stuff to do, I guess? Novgorod. Vernon looked out the window. For years the city was called Gorky and was closed to foreigners. Military research. Great. As I looked out of the window, Vernon went to see the train. Maybe locking myself up with him for a week hadn't been the best of ideas. Vernon opened the door to our compartment. Let's go and meet our neighbors, he said. Talking with strangers. I guess we now have no choice. Oh, okay, the choice is gone. What the hell is going on here? Never talk to strangers. There was only one person in the next compartment, a loud guy, built like a brick shithouse, with a red face and a lot to say. If you can believe it, he was eating pine nuts right out of the cone like a damn squirrel. A pine cone? Later I asked Vernon what the hell it was. Oh, those were cedar pine nuts, he said. They're from a tree that grows mostly in Siberia. Russians can't get enough of them. Our neighbor was a talker. Our neighbor promptly informed us that he'd bought the tickets for both places in the compartment so he could have some privacy, gave us some nuts, which I refused, and procured a bottle of vodka. Come, let's drink to new friendships. Maybe they'd both be more bearable if I had a drink, I thought. I agreed, sure. Okay, good, that lowered my stress a little bit. We agreed, and he poured us some glasses of vodka. Let me tell you, that stuff is strong. The man's name was Boris. Of course it was. He told us a few times he was a businessman, in quotation marks, with the mafia, from Moscow, winking every time he used the word businessman. It was awful. I ignored it. I decided just to ignore it. I had no idea if it was a nervous tic, a local custom, or a joke going over my head. If it were important, Vernon would have asked. Boris proved to be as ostentatious as I'd pegged him to be. He kept making wide, deliberate gestures so we could see his golden watch. Vernon took the bait. "You're gonna get us killed, Vernon." Yeah, exactly. Vernon picked up on the clue and asked about it. "Oh," said Boris with a wide grin that told me he'd been waiting for that question since we'd entered his compartment. "If you don't know what this watch means, I can't tell you. Or I could, but then I'd have to kill you, and that's always a mess," he laughed. I looked at Vernon. Vernon laughed too, appreciating the joke, and swiftly steered the conversation in another direction. He was good with words, and his Russian was nearly perfect. Mine, not so much. "We be traveling to see how it is in this train," I said, when Boris asked me in very slow, plain Russian why we were here. "You don't have trains in Britain?" he asked, like an idiot. It was Vernon's idea. I'm here because Vernon, his idea. "We wanted to experience the great Transsiberian Railway, you know," Vernon finished for me, and I was sure I saw amusement in his eyes. He loved showing off his language skills. "We both read a lot about it, we both like trains, and we both really needed a trip, didn't we, Henry?" Vernon certainly did. Vernon don't travel much. He sits and reads. He's a professor, not to mention the amount of time he spent recovering last year, but Boris didn't need to know about that. At least that's what I thought. Or maybe he did. "I was in an accident last year," said Vernon. "I got out of the hospital 3 months ago, and I convinced my brother-in-law, aha, to come on a trip through Russia with me." I know, goddamn Vernon. "Well, if you wanted to see what life is like for the everyday person, you should have traveled in Blitzkarsten, Boris exclaimed, throwing his hands in the air so we could once again see his expensive watch. Yeah. He grinned. "It's a good idea for a trip," he said, "like a safari, but with poor people." I couldn't tell if if he was serious. "It's not like that," Vernon explained. "It's a little like that." "Yes, British tradition." He looked at me skeptically. "We want to meet people, to be part of all this," Vernon gestured, showing him the train, I guess. "Not just to witness it," he went on. Time is a funny thing. Sometimes it flies, sometimes it's slow. This time was particularly slow, agonizingly. I considered jumping out of the window and onto the tracks. At least that's how I felt on the train. As the train trundled on, Boris poured more and more alcohol into our glasses, and we talked. The stories were getting more and more personal. It never ceased to amaze me how people opened up in front of strangers just because they'd shared a drink. "A dear friend of mine lost his wife in a car accident," said Boris at some point, "because of a debt he didn't pay on time." "He is a mafioso, I told you." "They threw a wrench at the car while they were on the highway. It went clean through the windshield and her head as well." He wiped his tears away. "Heart-wrenching. Let's go expect the train." Boris was obviously a person who loved the sound of his own voice. "I went to see the train and stretched my legs. I looked out of the windows as I passed through the cars. This is Russia. We shouldn't be anywhere near windows. The world outside became murkier with every mile. A layer of dust steadily built up on the windows, and every few stations someone got out and cleaned them. We're annoyed to energetic now. The colors were brighter for a while. Someone had just cleaned the windows, but then gradually desaturated until someone cleaned the windows again. What the hell are we driving through?" There was a longer stop in Kirov. Praise be to the rooster. When we stopped in Kirov, I decided to get off for a while. I joined the stream of passengers leaving the train. The rustling of their conversations, the sound of luggage being taken off the racks, and the sudden absence of the train's rumbling were at the same time familiar and exciting, reminding me that I was on a great journey. This writer is very weird, and they must love trains. Vernon's enthusiasm was contagious, and I was eager to see what else the Transsiberian Railway had to offer. I looked around. It wasn't our first stop, so I had a pretty good grasp of what to expect. Chaos. Vendors were always waiting for the train with everything a traveler might need at their stalls, from toothbrushes to alcohol. The myriad goods on sale, the loud voices of haggling people, the smell of beer, and all kinds of food, from candy to sauerkraut to smoked fish. It was intoxicating. Someone caught my eye. Yes, this is absolute chaos. Look at this. Look at this chaos right here. In all the commotion, I noticed an elderly woman standing behind a stall with fat, neatly made dumplings. She looked at the crowd with friendly amusement. When she brushed the hair from her face, I noticed her right thumb was missing. I took a photo? Jesus Christ! What is wrong with you? I was famished. Vodka on an empty stomach. Great food. I smiled at the vendor as I wolfed down the dumplings. She realized I wasn't from Russia immediately, and it piqued her interest. There was a big queue, though, and the train wasn't going to be on the platform for long. I don't want to be late. I don't give a shit about thumbless lady here. I took a photo of her. Jesus Christ. I headed back to the train. I don't know where this is going either. I was glad I hadn't taken the photo. I mean, this almost reads like an AI story. You know? This is just like... I wasn't at work, after all, and the woman only wanted to work in peace. Who was I to disrupt her? There was certainly a falsehood in photography, in the notion that you caught the moment frozen in time, as it were. I didn't need to freeze time. I wanted to move along as fast as possible. I'm tired of this shit already. To move and meet people, even though I hate them. So, Henry, asked Boris, after the train started moving again, how's the safari going? Well, he didn't shoot anyone, said Vernon, without skipping a beat. Time to go. Soon we left Kirov and the thumbless woman behind. Buy food at the next stop, buy souvenirs at the next stop. I do not want to tell a story. Buy souvenirs at the next stop. We returned to passing endless fields and the lone slim birches. I enjoyed the vistas, the space, the promise of life outside the city. Another station. By God, they're real. 10-ruble bills. Shouldn't you buy something for Matthew? Who the fuck is Matthew? Vernon asked at some point. He was good at remembering that kind of stuff. Matthew was my son-in-law. What? I liked bringing him souvenirs from... Okay, so Susan must be this guy's dead wife. Vernon was the brother-in-law, brother of Susan. Matthew, my son-in-law. No. What? How the fuck does this work? Matthew was Susan's husband? I don't know. I don't know how that works. Like, if I max out the stress and fatigue, what the heck happens? Anyway, whatever. Matthew was my son-in-law. I liked bringing him souvenirs from my travels. He found them amusing and absurd and was so charming about it. To be honest, it was usually Susan who reminded me about it. I'm gonna ask Vernon for assistance. My fatigue went up. Would you help me choose something? I asked. Sure, why not? He smiled. Maybe I'll get something for myself, too. At the next station, we left the train and approached one of the stalls on the platform. There were all kinds of things there. Fur shoes, fur hats, fur ear flaps, fur iron tea holders, fur vintage Soviet enamel pins, cups, cutlery, all covered in fur, old lamps, and, of course, Matryoshka dolls. I'm not spending that kind of money. Are you serious? A pink Ushanka hat for my son-in-law. A furry Kremlin tea holder. Yeah, fine, a pink Ushanka hat. I'm sure he'll love it. It's the most money, too. The pink Ushanka hat seemed absurd and Russian enough to satisfy Matthew's tastes. Vernon chuckled. Oh, he's gonna love it. Yeah, furry dolls. Tell a story. Can we not? How about the story tell me? After the novelty wore off, after Vernon had told all of his stories, after I'd gotten used to the unfamiliar alphabet and Boris's bellowing voice, what the hell does the alphabet have to do with it? Like, can you see what he's speaking? Is this a fourth wall breaking? He's also reading the story? The reality sank in. Our journey would be more like endless jet lag than some thrilling adventure. You could sleep there, obviously, and the beds were even comfortable, but somehow it was impossible to sleep for long, even when the lights dimmed for the night. The soft rumble of the tracks, which had been so relaxing at first, now woke me up every hour or so. Perm. I remember reading somewhere that the city used to be called Molotov for some time. Like the cocktail. Yes, like the cocktail. All in all, getting some rest proved to be difficult. I opened my eyes. Black magic and its expose. Someone was standing over my bed, lean, tall, dressed in black, motionless. I told you there was a supernatural element to this. His eyes bright, his teeth sharp. I was sure they were looking at me, even though I couldn't see their eyes. I called Vernon. Vernon? He won't hear you, the figure said in Russian. They had a strange accent. Come with me. Oh, it's the mafioso guy. Goddamn Boris. Where are the others? I asked. Waiting for you. They're all waiting. You're late. He went to the restaurant car. The train was a maze of marble corridors and narrow stairways. My guide walked extremely fast, but I knew that I couldn't lose them or I'd never leave that place. I started taking photos like a nervous idiot. But this is definitely AI written. Like this, we've just completely gone off in a totally different... I tried to remember the way. I needed to focus. My memory was still all right, after all, especially when it came to buildings and corridors. What do you mean, buildings and corridors? Are we on the... We got to the restaurant car. What the... We're on the train, and he's talking about buildings and corridors. I need to remember which building and corridor is outside the window, because we can't just walk in a straight line on the train to get back to where I was. What kind of train is this? It was a huge ballroom, filled with people I didn't recognize. We must be in a dream. There was a stunning redhead, Reedhead. There was a stunning Reedhead sitting by one of the tables, eating a chicken. She was stark naked, and the chicken was still alive and furry. She noticed me staring. I see that you love Russia, don't you, my dear? She made a wide gesture with her knife. Russia. This has got to be a dream, yeah. I was not sure what to answer. My first contact with Russia was overwhelming and confusing. That's what you get for listening to Vernon. Since we boarded the train, I'd been trying to see as many new things as I could from the window. It was hard for me to stop being a reporter and just enjoy myself, ignoring all the controversial topics. Russia. Russians had money. The souvenirs. The food. The hairy souvenirs. Let's talk about the souvenirs. I thought about the souvenir stands on the platforms along the way, the last remnants of the past era, cheaply sold to foreign tourists. Capitalism's final triumph. The food. When was the last time I'd eaten fish and chips? It's funny how every country has its own brand of junk food. Russia was a land of dumplings and deep-fried pastries. I snapped out of my reverie. What was the question again? How did I feel about Russia? Was that the question? I don't remember her asking that. I see you love Russia, that's all she said. She didn't ask me. There's no good answer for being in Russia. It's apparently a very dirty place. They have to wipe down the windows constantly. It's very poor and run down, apparently. He complained about that a lot. I didn't want to answer. From the very beginning I'd been wary and overwhelmed, and the journey gave me only more reasons to feel that way. The people we'd met were too intense and volatile, and the strangeness of the surroundings made me feel uncomfortable, not to mention that everyone's hairy and brooding and has sharp eyes and bright... I turned to the stranger. Yeah, wanting to take a picture of everything. Suddenly I was alone. On the wall were my photographs. All I could see was my guide's black silhouette against blurred, distorted backdrops. I opened my eyes. The dream left me uncertain and strangely numb. This took a very dark, esoteric turn, and this... What is this? There was something calming about the train at night. The nightmares were especially calming. I checked my camera. I had not taken any photos on this trip so far. There was Vernon with a bottle of sunflower oil. There was an anthrax outbreak in the city 40 years ago. Boris loved sharing the darkest stories. Why are we still with Boris? Can we go back to our own room? The virus escaped from a military facility nearby. I took a photo of my revolutionary glass to kill time. How many photos did you take? Can't you stop working for a second? Vernon sighed, the sound of the shutter stirring from his sleep. We're tourists. How dare you take pictures? Look, you're a Russian literature professor who's spending his vacation on the Transsiberian Railway. He just rolled his eyes. Time in the train was like a bubble. All the cars and stations ran on Moscow time, regardless of the local time zones. Maybe. Or maybe we're just too afraid of Mr. Mafia here to say no. It's funny how time zones were a relatively new thing, and yet life without them seemed unimaginable. What year is this? I looked at Boris, who'd decided to visit our compartment. Oh, that's why, because he visited our compartment. Now he won't go home. We made a friend, thanks, Vernon. You know, British trains made time zones, I said in an attempt to make a conversation. Yes, yes, the British made everything. Your glorious empire, he laughed. We're almost there. Omsk, once a wooden fort built by Cossacks, protecting the Russian frontier, now a sprawling metropolis with half a dozen universities. At least that's what I'd read on the back of this package, because I was trying to kill time, and now we are speeding along. We didn't even stop there. A half moon hung in the sky, shining bright. For a while I watched the clouds silhouetted by its radiance, hypnotized by their changing shapes and their stark contrast with the night sky. Sometimes it struck me just how huge a project that railway system had been. They had to create the whole infrastructure spanning 2 continents to make it possible. And there we were, me, Vernon, and Boris, sitting peacefully throughout the journey. I realized we were in the middle of Siberia. The thought sent a shiver down my spine, not to mention the cold outside. Maybe. I don't know. I don't know how old that is. Yeah, there's plenty of fur to keep us warm. Did you know, Vernon said, the city so detested by the procurator, Vernon said, looking thoughtfully out the window, that this city owes its existence to the Transsiberian Railway? I also looked out the window. We saw a good portion of the city before we got to the station. It was quite big, especially compared to the other places we'd passed through. Figures, I'd murmured. They founded it just to build a bridge across the the river we crossed, Vernon continued, and now it's the biggest city in Siberia. We had a 20-minute long stop in the biggest city in Siberia, so I thought I might as well do something with it. Vernon is coming with me. This is his fault. Want to see the station? I asked, sure that he'd jump at the opportunity. I think I'll get some sleep, he said. Odd. Vernon doesn't usually sleep. Schizophrenia, as predicted. A lot of people left the train with me, but after a few minutes they'd all moved on and I was alone in the enormous station. I stopped outside for a minute to see the building, trying to see the resemblance to the steam engine Vernon had told me it was famous for. I went inside. Inside there were marble floors, crystal chandeliers, lights, and arched ceilings. Everything was polished and gleaming. There was something eternal about it. The floor reflected the silhouettes of the travelers as they walked across it. There weren't many of them now, just a few dozen unfortunate souls condemned to travel through the night. I thought about Susan. I'm still not really sure how she's related to me, but I thought about her nonetheless. Susan would have loved it here. She'd have asked Vernon to tell her more about the place, and he'd have gladly obliged. They were both very curious about the world. It definitely ran in the family. Maybe that was why Vernon hadn't come with me. Sometimes, when we were together, her absence was too pronounced. Huh? Well, I hate people, so I feel okay alone. I'm optimistic now. I love being alone. I strolled through the station. There was something in that moment, at that particular station, that made me fond of it all. The notion of travel, perhaps, the feeling that I was really in Siberia, that I was sharing my lot with other travelers. Looking back at how the trip had gone so far, I decided that trapping myself together with Vernon on a train hadn't been such a good idea. We were never cut out for each other. The train set off into the night. You gotta love that. It's like Vernon's family, but I can't stand the guy, and I felt better being off by myself in a station. I thought about Susan for a while. A year had passed since her death, and the pain was beginning to fade. I was glad I still had my memories of her. I slept for some time, and it was quite refreshing. The nightmares put me through the night. What the hell? When we went to Boris's compartment again, we caught him doing a crossword. He quickly hid the magazine with it and said something about boredom on a train. Meanwhile, Vernon was going through my photos, commenting loudly on some of them. Especially the one about the teacups. I don't know. No, Susan is Vernon's sister. And I'm guessing that she was married to Michael, the son-in-law. Let's see. Susan never looked through my camera. She always waited for me to pick the pictures I wanted to keep. I realized I'd been spending the trip as though I were working, distance behind my glass eye, mostly observing. I'm not sure what Susan is to the main character, to the narrator. Why was the sun in the wrong place? I looked at my watch. Yeah, morning in Moscow, about 2 p.m. here in Krasnoyarsk. The train went on and on and on. I was glad we'd chosen the shorter route. Go to the restaurant car. I was hungry. The incident in Griboyedov. After days of eating instant noodles and the street food that was available on the platforms, which was tasty but soon lost its charm, the restaurant car was a pleasant surprise. It took us this long to go to the restaurant car instead of eating junk food. It seemed more spacious than the other places on the train. I felt myself straighten up, even though I didn't think I'd been slouching before. Boris smiled. Ah, the smell of normal food. I've missed it so much. Well, there was definitely the smell of cabbage and onion. It wasn't the most elegant smell, but there was something familiar and hospitable about it. Gonna order some vodka here. I don't think so. I looked at the menu. The menu was in English, which was a relief. There were a lot of items on the menu, but when we asked, it turned out most of them weren't available. I asked the waitress for a recommendation. The waitress knew some English, so I could finally speak like a normal human being. Wow! She recommended the two most expensive dishes on the menu, schnitzel and something that was described only as meat mix in English. In Russian, it was called solyanka. I let Vernon order. Somehow this costs me less. Finally, Vernon ordered us borscht, which was beetroot soup, and brizol, which was tenderized chicken meat with mushrooms, cheese, and tomatoes. The borscht was a thick, sour soup with a lot of ingredients, some of which I wasn't sure I could name. There was cabbage, potatoes, and the base was made of beets, so it was slightly sweet. Make up your mind, was it slightly sweet or was it sour? The bowls we got were full. The soup kept spilling when the train took a turn or the tracks were too bumpy. I grabbed my spoon. In the end, I really liked it. I'd have asked for the recipe, but I had no idea where to find the right beetroots in London. In a Polish shop, perhaps? Maybe. I don't know, finally, we can speak a civilized tongue. We had to wait for the main course. While we waited for the main course, we noticed two men, slightly older than us, at the table next to ours. From what I gathered, they were talking about philosophy and politics. Judging by the look on Vernon's face, the discussion was interesting. Please, no. Vernon, please don't. Come on, Henry, it'll be fun. I was sure it wouldn't. It won't. Leave it, Vernon, please. You're a bore sometimes, you know that, he sighed. After some time, the waitress brought us our main course. The brizol was a kind of tenderized steak. I thought you said it was chicken. They served with mushrooms and tomatoes, as well as some cheese. It was nothing fancy, but I liked it. I also noticed that they'd ordered vodka. We left. I don't think the author of this game has ever been to Russia by the sound of it. Like, they keep saying one thing and then saying another thing. Like, it's like they read the Wikipedia entry for a few things and like, okay, I put that in. I wasn't in the mood for drinking. After we finished our meal, we left the dining cart. Like, why would a menu in the middle of Siberia be in English? I guess we're on the train, though, so it's... never mind. A week on a train, traveling across a whole continent. It all sounded very romantic, but after a while there was a monotony in everything we did. Tell me about it. Sometimes I felt like it was the only thing that was certain, the only thing left in the world. Somebody's going crazy. Rumbling. An occasional word from one of the other compartments. You could tell the author has sort of run out of ideas on what to do here for this stretch. Yeah. Small talk with Boris. Because what else was there to do? Drinking. Because what else was there to do? They really didn't have anything planned for this part of the journey. Oh, okay, well, that disappeared immediately. Thanks. We stopped in Irkutsk. The duel between the professor and the poet. After 3 days on our great Transsiberian journey, we were dying of boredom, exactly as I predicted. The train stays here for half an hour. We could leave the station at least, maybe go to a normal shop, buy something to eat. Half an hour wasn't a good enough time. This increases my stress. Yeah, whatever, it's a good idea. I guess so, yeah. Sure, why not, I said. Anything that could break the monotony seemed worthwhile. We'd better take our things. Take your luggage, I said, grabbing my duffel bag, just in case. Unlucky visitors. It was morning in Irkutsk. I reset my watch. The brightly lit building wasn't very different from most supermarkets in Europe, which was a relief, but I was glad mostly we were able to leave the train and the station. I went into the labyrinth of shelves as if I were coming home from after a long journey. The mall was reasonably well stocked, and the prices were better than on the platform. We bought some things that could help pass the time. A book. That way I don't have to talk to anyone. Judging by the cover, it was some sci-fi novel about people living in Moscow's metro. Maybe my Russian would improve if I read a bit. Oh yeah, why did I buy a book when I can't read? Each of us bought what he needed, and we went on our way. Everything was going according to plan, and Vernon threw me a "see, I told you so" look, but a few seconds later, I realized he'd slowed down. A lot. I stopped. Vernon, are you coming? I asked, stopping. What does it look like I'm doing? He spat angrily. Boris looked at us. Is everything okay? Yes, answered Vernon. I could see he was trying to go a little faster. He winced in pain. I tried to help him. The borscht is upsetting his stomach. Come on, let me give you a hand. Will you stop it? Vernon snapped, barely controlling his anger. I'm fine. Uh-oh. Vernon is turning. The creatures got to him. We went on, but we were getting slower and slower. Boris was getting nervous, looking at us, then in the direction of the station, then back at us again. I met his gaze. Mine was cold. I knew that he was thinking about leaving us here, and frankly, I didn't even care at that point. I'll run to the station, he said. I'll try to convince them to wait. Whatever, I said in English. I didn't trust him at all. We'd known each other for days, drinking, telling stories. The bastard. And the only thing that connected us was boredom. I looked at him running down the street. Then I turned to Vernon. Now can I help? He gave me a grim look. God, I hate you sometimes. Yes, please, if you'd be so kind. I helped him. And we slowly made our way to the platform. I mean, I feel like we should have maybe gone to a clinic or something. This doesn't look good. The appearance of the hero. When we got there, the train was, of course, nowhere to be seen. The vendors were gathering their things, and the place was getting emptier and quieter by the minute. We didn't see him at first. And it was Vernon who noticed the familiar face. Boris was standing there in the middle of all the commotion. He had an unsure expression that didn't fit him at all. I'd have felt awful if I'd left you here, he said. My friend lives not far from here. We can sleep at his place and think about what to do next. I wasn't fond of the idea of staying at some random person's house. We were in a big city. There had to be a hotel nearby. We're 20. Vernon suddenly sprung to life, and they both started talking in Russian so fast I couldn't understand a word. Before I managed to say something, Boris's friend was on the way. All that there was left for us to do was wait. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the heck that was about. Vernon opened a bottle of vodka he'd bought at the mall. This just seems like they tried to shoehorn in a way that we would miss the train, you know? Like, oh, Vernon feels bad. Oh no, we're not going to make it. Oh, he feels better now. I excused myself. I needed to keep a clear mind. This asshole is up to something. Especially when he was like, hey, Vernon, you okay? Can we help you? And he's like, I never liked you. Okay, fine. Stay here then. There are no evil people in the world. Sure. Boris said that it would take his friend some time to get to Irkutsk, so we decided to take a walk. I looked around. At first glance, Irkutsk looked as though someone had taken it out of the 70s or 80s with its old blocky cars and cracked sidewalks. The more you looked, though, the more quirks you noticed. There were speakers on the streetlights playing old U.S. hits by Presley, Sinatra, and Lennon, of all people. Yes, that's a John Lennon, famous U.S. artist. There were beautiful Orthodox churches and monuments to the czars, and there were, of course, wooden houses. They were something. Their windows were sometimes just a few centimeters above the ground, but the wood carving was something else. Delicate and ornate, even on the oldest, most neglected of buildings. They made me think about the patterns frost makes on windows and the fairy tales Henrietta we used to love when she was a little girl. I don't even know who that is now. We've introduced a new character. I took photos. That's apparently my shtick. I reached for my camera. The houses stood in such stark contrast to the rest of the city, intricate wooden relics against the backdrop of brutalist concrete. It's all about the permafrost, said Vernon, looking at the buildings wistfully. When it gets warmer, the ground becomes softer and the buildings sink a bit. After more than 100 years, though, well, he gestured toward the nearest building. The windows were just above the ground. You can see the difference. You really are serious about this safari thing, aren't you? Murmured Boris under his breath. Come, Ivan should be here soon. Oh, good. Cousin Ivan is going to take us in his rickshaw to wherever the hell we're going now. We waited forever, but finally a big, old, military-looking pickup showed up. We went on our way. We're driving all the way? Holy shit. There's not another train that's going to come by? Are you serious? There were no back seats in the car, only 2 wooden footstools between huge bags of undefined contents. Boris's friend Ivan turned out to be an enthusiastic guy in his 40s. He told us he was a car mechanic. Right. His Russian was simple enough for me to understand, and soon I found out that we were going to a small village on the shore of Lake Baikal. After a while, I withdrew from the conversation, watching the sun set over the Siberian plains. They looked deceptively peaceful. Vernon was chatting with Boris and Ivan about our trip. When Henry left the station in Novosibirsk, I was sure he wouldn't make it back, he said. We spent a good 20 minutes deciding what to do if he didn't come back, didn't we, Boris? Ivan nodded and asked polite questions from time to time. Yeah, this is very, very clearly just whatever stock music they could find to shove into the game, because it doesn't really fit the mood at all. By candlelight. The place was called Liskvichishia. It seemed quite nice. It was getting dark and the street lights didn't work, but I could see the silhouettes of the buildings. When I got out of Ivan's car, the breeze on my face was fresh and brisk. I could feel Lake Baikal nearby, even if I couldn't see it. We went inside. The house was small, a bit too small for 5 people. It would be Ivan, his cousin, and the 3 of us. They told us to leave our things in Ivan's room. We were invited to the table. You must be starving, said Ivan's cousin Sasha. Sit in the kitchen. We'll get you something. The kitchen was a strange, narrow space, more of a corridor than an actual room. On the shelves I saw lots of spices and old jars with handwritten labels in blue ink. Most of the text was faded. Sasha and Ivan took out some plates and made us salami sandwiches. They also dusted some old glasses that they proceeded to fill with vodka. Sure, why not? I took the glass. Thanks. You? I said, raising the glass. It was strange how familiar we all were with each other, 5 people connected by coincidence. Sasha, Ivan, Boris, and Vernon got along swimmingly, talking faster and faster. From time to time they started to accommodate me and pulled me into the conversation. Hey, Henry, why so silent? Tell us a story. Vernon told us all about you. It wasn't their business. My Russian, bad. You can't tell, I answered, dodging the bullet. The evening went on. My fatigue is maxing out here. At one point, all I wanted was to go to sleep. I was about to excuse myself when Ivan's phone rang. He picked up, and then there were some fast-spoken Russian words I couldn't catch in my exhaustion. My friend is having a party. Maybe we'll all go, he said, looking at Vernon and me, but more at Vernon. Sure, said Vernon, enthusiastically, the instant I started to refuse. We paused. We looked at each other. I was too exhausted to start exploring Russia by night, but if Vernon wanted to go, if I hadn't been so tired. You're joking. You You have to be kidding me, I said, too tired to even convey any emotion in my voice. I'm not. I don't see myself coming back here and meeting people anytime soon. It's not an opportunity I intend to pass up, Henry. There was a shade of stubbornness in his eyes. I knew it well enough. I, too, was stubborn. There was no use arguing with him. I'm sad now. Now suit yourself, I sighed. I'm staying. They left surprisingly quickly, especially for people who were leaving a stranger in their home. Apparently, though, I wasn't threatening. They showed me to my room, and 5 minutes later, they were gone. I went to sleep. I finished the drink, stumbled to my bed, and, half-dressed, fell asleep. Wake up. The day without peace. It was late morning when I woke up with a splitting headache and the feeling that something had crawled into my mouth and died. The house was silent, and I was alone in the bedroom. It was the first time I had really looked at the room, and judging by its appearance, Ivan was an interesting man. There were a lot of books there, but also rows of plastic figurines on the shelves. Most of them must have been more than 20 years old. I wonder why he collected them. I got up. Soon I discovered the house was empty. None of my 4 companions had returned from the party. I checked the time. It was almost 9. I called Vernon. You'd have thought there would be at least a message on my phone, but there was none. So I called him, and of course there was no signal. His phone probably died. I waited. I'm now worried. They'd show up eventually, I figured. After an hour, though, there was still no sign of them. They were drunk, I realized. Was Vernon stupid enough to try and swim in Lake Baikal while drunk? Absolutely. I went outside. The car was still there. The village seemed peaceful, and I could see Lake Baikal behind the wooden buildings on the other side of the road. I went back inside. I'm not going to wander around a strange town, are you stupid? I went back to the house. A black cat came out of Sasha's room and meowed at me angrily. I went outside again. I went outside, but everything was the same as when we'd arrived. 5 minutes ago, in fact. I left the yard. The chilly Siberian air blew over my face as I stepped outside the house. The air was colder than the day before, like it sometimes is on winter mornings. Shapes were sharper, the wind more biting. I wasn't dressed for the weather. I looked for a police station. I wasn't sure if I could manage the situation on my own. I walked down the street looking for a police station. The few people I passed didn't hide their curiosity. In a small village, a new face was a sensation. Of course, someone asked me if they could help me, a slim man with a red face who could have been 20 or 60 years old. I couldn't tell. Police? We have no police here. What happened? Did someone rob you? My friend is gone. Can't find brother. He go out at night. He was shocked. Alone? He went to a party. With our host? With our hosts. With man who gave us sleep, and his mother's sister's son and friend Boris. Oh, Ivan and Sasha. I know where he went. I can show you. Come. I went with him. How convenient. Split in two. The house he led me to was a relatively large wooden building that was roughly 5 minutes away. We walked along the asphalt road, then turned down a dirt lane. The village was silent, the sound of our steps carrying ominously in the air. Here, the man said, pointing me toward a concrete house with brown windows. The curtains were drawn. They should be here. Thank you? Thank, I said, and went to knock on the door. Good luck, he answered, but didn't go away. I guess he wanted to stay for the show. After some time, the door opened. Behind it, there was a very tired man who listened to my Russian for maybe 5 seconds, managed to let out a deep, painful sigh, and let me in. It was dark inside. Someone had drawn the heavy curtains. I thought the curtains were open. I heard snoring and could smell cheap tobacco, alcohol, and vomit. The host led me to the kitchen, and there, asleep, with his head on the table, was Vernon. I woke him up. Vernon, I said. I moved closer and shook his arm. Vernon! Slowly he opened his eyes. Then he burped. It took him a moment to concentrate on me, and when he did, he smiled drunkenly. Henry, it's good to see you. I was worried. I was worried, you idiot, I sighed, feeling a sudden wave of relief. But he still took offense. What are you on about? What's your problem, Henry? I was worried. What's my problem? You disappeared without a trace. In a village next to the deepest lake in the world. Oh, come on, Henry. You know nothing was going to happen? I wasn't so sure of that. He left me alone. You left me alone. Have you ever even remotely grasped the fucking meaning of responsibility? Things escalated quickly from there. Says the man who left his host's house unattended and unlocked. Where would we be if I hadn't made friends with these people? On a train. We went from worried to hopeless. On a train, Vernon. We'd be on a train. Well, if I'm the problem, maybe you should go back to Irkutsk on your own, Vernon postured, suddenly very calm. Maybe I should. This talk wasn't going anywhere. I lost my camera. The conversation isn't going anywhere, Vernon, I decided. We're both too agitated to come to any kind of understanding. I'll see you later, I guess. And then why? Why would I do this? With that, I left. No one's fate is of any interest. Long story short, I decided to go to Irkutsk on my own. Sometimes I had a short fuse. And there I was in the middle of fucking Siberia, next to a road that looked like it saw no more than 20 cars a day. I could try to hitchhike, or go to the ferry pier. This is incredibly irresponsible. What the fuck is he doing? I vaguely remembered hearing that there was a train station on the other side of the river. Okay. Ferry to Port Baikal, sure. The cold wind blew in my face. Looking at Lake Baikal broke my heart. Beauty sometimes had that effect on me. I was never happy. I was a miserable old fuck, and nothing made me... And that day on that ferry, surrounded by the calm blue water adorned with the golden reflections of the sun, a deep sadness touched me. There weren't many of us on the ferry, about 10 people, 4 cars in total. 2 of the passengers, a man and a woman with Asian eyes, were talking in hushed voices as they looked at the lake. I couldn't understand a thing, and at this point I was getting used to it. Maybe I never would understand the country that fascinated Vernon so much. List grew smaller and smaller in our wake. Vernon probably went back to sleep after I left. For now, though, it was only me and the water. Why are we going back? Where am I even going? A view. Water. Suddenly I realized that there was a brightness surrounding us. The sky was the color of washed jeans. The lake was almost white, and the air between me and the mountains seemed radiant. I never would have seen that if I'd still been on the train. We'd probably better take a deep breath. I straightened up, took a deep breath, and let myself just be in the moment. I thought about my daughter. She loved sailing, thanks in part to Vernon, and at that moment I could understand her love for the sea perfectly. There was only Lake Baikal and me. We were a bit like intruders there. The lake, the river, and the mountains looked so monumental there was no place for people and their small, unimportant issues and quarrels. Look at the port. Now we're just sad. Port Baikal looked like someone had put it there by accident and then forgotten about it. Finally, I saw our destination. It wasn't very different from List Virginia, to be honest, and I was starting to think that going there hadn't been such a good idea. There were a few houses huddled at the foot of a mountain in a small port. I thought I saw some kind of movement, so I squinted. Then I took out my camera and zoomed in on the town. Yes, there was a train there, and it was just leaving. So, I said to myself, I managed to miss a train I didn't even know I could catch. Well, great. Great. We were getting closer and closer. Would I even be able to get back to Irkutsk, I wondered, looking at the shore. Lake Baikal suddenly felt cold and indifferent. Why are we doing this? The couple I'd noticed earlier had stopped talking. Now they just looked at the lake in silence. The woman poured tea from an old thermos into an equally old cup for them to share. As we approached the pier, there was some commotion on deck. People gathered their things, getting ready to go ashore. We stopped. They fit cars on this? There were 4 cars on this thing? The end of the world. Port Baikal was a minuscule village wedged between the Angara River, Lake Baikal, and the steep surrounding mountains. It was quiet, and the silence told me everything I needed to know about the place. It was dying. The cars departed the ferry like slow, dazed beetles. There were a few people, passengers, the people greeting them, and who I assumed were some bored villagers. I saw a lighthouse nearby, and I knew there was a train station somewhere nearby. I needed to find a way out. We could just take the ferry back. Soon I found the train station I'd seen from the ferry. I also found out the next train was leaving in 2 days. It appeared that the tracks there had once been part of the Transsiberian Railway. I couldn't fully understand why it had been separated from the main line. Later I learned it was because they flooded parts of the tracks to fill the Irkutsk hydroelectric station's reservoir. An unpleasant surprise. I looked at the tracks that only a few decades earlier had taken villagers to Moscow or Vladivostok if they so wanted. Now they were just a relic, a short tourist line that left twice a week. This was a dead end, and I needed to decide where to go next. I went for a walk. Are you stupid? Go back. I wasn't pleased with myself, to say the least. Anyway, here I was on the way back to list. The ferry driver looked at me, slightly surprised, but didn't comment. Looking at the village shrinking on the horizon, I thought about all the mistakes I'd made on the trip. There were plenty. One of them was getting off the goddamn train. I'd tried to decide what to do next. I'd probably have to hitchhike. I thought about looking for Vernon, but that was an absurd idea. Besides, he was the one who should be looking for me. How the hell would he know you're in the middle of the lake right now? Thinking about ways to get back to Irkutsk, I almost forgot where I was. On a small boat in the middle of a lake. Lake Baikal had a way of drawing your attention back to it, though. The view again. Flight. Standing near the railing, I suddenly felt dizzy. The sky and lake almost looked the same, and I couldn't tell the sound of the wind rushing past me from the hum of the engine. I felt as though I were flying. Here I was in the middle of Russia on my own. Suddenly I felt acutely alone. What a ride. What a ride, I thought, looking back at the past few days. The empty platform in Irkutsk, Ivan's car, the morning hungover. Vernon still drunk after the party. It all came back to me. I expected some disaster from the first day of that trip. I found it hard to really trust Russia. It was the first time I'd spent so much time in the country observing everyday life, not just war or fashion or tourist attractions. Many things I saw were ugly, some were beautiful, some were funny, and some quite dark. I saw both wonder and grotesque. I didn't like the country. God, I need a drink. I didn't like the country. I realized I didn't like the country at all. Vernon would be disappointed. I couldn't stand the architecture. The breathtaking landscapes only highlighted how ugly the cities were, messy, chaotic, violent, just like their history, politics, and the general approach to life. I took a photo. Let's lower our fatigue a little bit. I just observed. I let myself dissolve into the blue void. Time didn't matter. I blinked and looked around. This guy's obsessed with taking photos of everything. There were 2 cars on the ferry. Both looked old, and one was hitched to a horse trailer. The drivers were peculiar people. One was an elderly man with one eye permanently squinted. The other was, from what I gathered, a buryat, whatever that is. He didn't talk much, and mostly busied himself with tending to his horse. I managed to catch a glimpse. It was a small, sturdy animal. Of what? Where? The horse? When we got closer, it started to get nervous, but the owner calmed it with a few gestures and softly spoken words in a language that couldn't have been Russian. How are we getting back on this goddamn train to finish this journey? Like, this whole game could have been done 5 minutes ago if we just stayed on the train. No one's fate is of any interest, again. Well, that was a waste of time, I thought to myself, as I made my way back to the very empty road and let's catch a ride. After maybe 15 minutes, I saw the first car. It was old and looked as though it would break down any second. I'll pass. I stood there for a good while, looking at the empty road. I remembered stories about highway pirates that supposedly stopped your car to ask for help and then robbed you, and realized no one was going to give me a ride. Finally, I heard an engine, and an old car pulled up beside me. I took the ride. When I sat in the car, I felt my whole body was heavy. This is a much faster ride. Look how much distance we're traveling in the few minutes that are ticking by here. This guy is speeding. I focused on the sights outside, trying to relax and rest. I was still tired after everything that had happened. I didn't even try to talk to the driver or look at the car. The railroad tracks were miles away. Two roads diverged in a yellow wood. Yeah, the police were behind us. Was there a train I wouldn't take? Where are we going now? If he takes me all the way back around to that little village, I'm going to be upset. The woods were lovely, dark and deep. But I had promises to keep. In this particular case, talking about the police were. But I had promises to keep many miles to go before I sleep. Where are we now? Holy shit. Wake up. Nicanor Ivanovich's dream. I woke up when the car stopped. We were in a small village. The driver looked at me, worried. We're in Shamanka. I tried to wake you up when we got to Irkutsk, but you just wouldn't react. Well, at least I got some sleep. I need to hitch another ride. I catch something, I said. Where? Main road? That way. You don't have to pay me. I took you too far. I'm sorry. You can go back to Irkutsk or try going to Sladyanka. There's a station there too. Most people go to Irkutsk. Okay. Let's get back on track here. I went across the bridge to the main and only road and tried to hitch a ride. It took a while, but finally I saw an old rusty car approach. I took the ride. Criminy, this is just going back and forth. How could I fall asleep in a stranger's car? Talk about Vernon? I don't think I need to talk about anybody. The driver was an old lady who was returning from a visit to her sons. He was some kind of hermit living near the forest. We got into Baba Yaga's car here, great. One day his house caught fire. He was caught in the blaze. Oh. That's how I learned the son was dead. The only thing that was left after the fire was a door. Now everyone who wanted to enter the forest had to go through the door or suffer bad luck. I don't go into the forest, she told me. I just stay where the house was. Sometimes I talk to him. I tell him I'm proud and that he had a good life. This is very bizarre. Another stop? Ah, we should have just stayed on the train. She yawned. I need to sleep, said my driver, stopping the car, for an hour or so. She looked tired. I'll wait. It's only an hour. Me wait, I said. Guard you. That's sweet, but you better go, she said, looking at me warily. 500 will be enough. Judging by her voice, paying for hitchhiking was completely obvious. I gave her the money. I sighed and gave her the money. She smiled at me politely and gestured at me to go on my way. Some time passed before another car came. This one looked sturdy. I'll take the ride. I didn't have much time to get to Irkutsk. How do I know that? We don't even know what the timetable is for the trains. I sat in the front next to the driver. In the back were two kids, girls who looked about 5 and 7 years old. At first they were shy, but with time they were as loud as little girls can be. I didn't understand anything they said because it was all so fast. The engine was loud and their pronunciation wasn't the best. Wow! Wow! Typical, huh? Snooty tourist. Some foreign guy. I barely speak the language, but man, their pronunciation sucks. All I could tell is that one of them seemed upset. Near Irkutsk, my driver stopped for gas. The station was peculiar, a small building with a bulletproof window behind bars. My driver opened a little drawer near the window, put money in it, and only then the gas pump started. I got out near the train station. Absolute and eternal refuge. The station hadn't changed much. I mean, why would it? The building was still huge, green, and intricate. Why? What the hell? Why would it change? We weren't gone for years. The interior still reminded me of the 70s and 80s. There were some people there, but not as many as in Moscow or London. It wasn't hard to notice him. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw a limping silhouette. Vernon. Somehow he'd ended up there too. I approached him. We met near the ticket office, and for a moment neither of us knew what to say. So, I started. So. Vernon's voice was perfectly neutral, perhaps a bit anxious. What do we do now? I'm not apologizing to this jackass. He was just as out of line. Well, that was refreshing, suggested Vernon. Surprisingly okay. What do we do now? For a moment, Vernon didn't answer. He just looked at the timetable. I honestly don't know. How about you get on a goddamn train? I looked at him and tried to put myself in his shoes. He slowly shook his head. Please stop trying to read me, he demanded calmly. Sometimes I felt like we had nothing in common, but Vernon knew me quite well. He gave me a crooked smile. Maybe we should focus on reading... You should focus on reading yourself instead. Because seriously, Henry, what the fuck was all that about? Why'd you leave? It was a fair enough question. Why had I left him? I don't know either. Honestly, it's because I thought the ferry was going the other direction and put me further to our destination. I was frustrated. Yeah, I don't know either. When we were on the train, locked in a metal tube with you doing all the talking and making most of the decisions, I felt trapped. I sighed, and when we left, you were still doing all the talking. I couldn't do anything and felt frustrated. I had to get out of there to try and do anything on my own. Vernon listened carefully, perhaps for the first time since we'd started the trip. I wanted to show you the Russia I know and love, he said. He craned his neck and looked at the timetable for a few moments without really reading it. And how did getting out of there work out for you? Well, I just wasted a bunch of money. I want to continue. Alone. I shouldn't have left you. No kidding. I'm happy I had the experience, but I came here with you, and that's what this journey's about. You think so? He stared at the timetable again. I don't think we're well suited to travel together. We're not. We're not at all, apparently. Maybe you're right. Not everyone is, sighed Vernon. There's nothing wrong with that. It was refreshing we could solve things like adults for a change. Well, fine, let's go back to Moscow. Why are we going back to Moscow? I thought we had a destination. What the hell are we doing? We're not separating again. This is idiotic. You go somewhere on vacation with somebody, and it's like, yeah, you know, I'll just abandon you halfway through. Let's go back to Moscow. Let's travel to Moscow together, but please, let's make this the last adventure we attempt together, okay? Vernon nodded. You're right. Actually, I'm curious how you managed to get here. Tell me about it. Well, whatever had happened between us in those last few days, it wasn't as devastating as it could have been. We bought the tickets. Yeah, I don't know why we're going back this way. My shadow is running to meet me. Back to the routine, I thought, stepping on the train. There was something soothing about the thought. I was looking forward to the clatter of the wheels, the lulling sway of the car, the hum of activity around me. Sometimes the steady rhythms and rail travel were exactly what I needed. I took one last look at Irkutsk. The railway station looked hyper-real in the purple light of the setting sun. There was something nostalgic about leaving. What does that mean? The train departed. We were back on the train. Back we go again. I looked at Vernon. He seemed to be asleep in his seat. I was almost certain he was pretending. Good. We don't need to talk to him. The familiar rumble of the train filled the air. I was waiting to see what came around the next corner. When we started this trip, I'd had my doubts. Now, a few thousand miles along, I knew I was right from the very beginning. I think something changed when I was on the train, and for the worse. I'd never understand what Vernon saw in Russia. It was too big to even have a consistent identity. I guess it tried to have one, just wasn't really good at it. Maybe Vernon was right in what he'd said to Boris at the beginning of our journey. Maybe we both needed this trip. Everyone in our family was a free spirit. We all needed distance to see what to do and what to think when life got complicated. Yeah, I fully expect Boris to just jump in here at some point. Control. Moscow. We found ourselves back near the tram tracks Vernon had been so obsessed with. As I looked at them and the buzzing city around us, I realized the trip wasn't even close to being over. God, really? Everything we'd been through would travel with us back to London, and sooner or later we'd be on the road again. Memory is a fragile thing, and maybe that's why we collect things. I wonder what part of Russia would stay with me after I finally got home. A photograph. Photograph of a dilapidated wooden building sinking slowly into the ground? Yes. I looked at Vernon. Vernon was standing next to me looking at the tram tracks. You know what my favorite quote from Master and Margarita is, he said. How could I forget? He used to repeat it all the time. It was a line from the beginning of the book, close to the scene with the sunflower oil. In order to be in control, you have to have a definite plan, or at least a reasonable period for at least a reasonable period of time. So how, may I ask, can man be in control if he can't even draw up a plan for a ridiculously short period of time, say 1,000 years, and is, moreover, unable to ensure his own safety for even the next day? The end. What the fuck was this? You've finished Transsiberian. Henry and Vernon have managed to let bygones be bygones, continued their journey together. It was perhaps a beginning. It's based on a novel, I guess. Wow. That, glad I got that for free. You can continue the journey. In a bar on the world's most remote island, a group of strangers share their tales. Travel to the mysterious statues of Rapa Nui, the bustling streets of Bangkok, the pristine expanses of the Antarctic, the grasslands of the Serengeti, and more. Dive into tales created by passionate travelers and experienced reporters, and discover the world they saw on their journeys. 4 novellas, 5 short stories, all inspired by true stories and set in real places. Wow, really? Some actual jackass went on the Trans-Siberian Railroad and then got stopped off hitchhiking in villages? Like, what the... Oh my god. Yeah, no. We won't be doing that again. Man. Yeah, so there is a series of those games, and that's obviously the free one. But, man. It's fun to poke at bad writing. It really is. But that is some deeply... Like, honestly, I still maintain that most of that was cobbled together by an AI. Because it's just... No. That's not... A lot of it didn't make sense. And, like, I feel like what happened there was one storyline, and then, they tried to make the branching choices and whatnot, because you could get off the train all the time and just explore, and Vernon would poke you to be like, oh, we should talk to people, blah, blah, blah. So, but I feel like that stuff was bolted onto it. So that's why it didn't make sense. Because there would just be that very abrupt tonal shift in the story and everything that would clearly go down the side thought storyline rather than the full the main storyline, I guess. Wow. But what a pointless thing. We'll take a ferry to this little village and get what, even more lost? I guess they wanted me to go down that route. It's either that or just wander back. That must. I mean, the name of the game is Wanderlust. Yeah, we never saw Boris again. I honestly thought something bad was going to happen there. And what the hell was that dream? I don't know. There's some weird storytelling for sure. it had to be like there had to be a bad ending. I almost kind of want to do another playthrough of that, but choose all the terrible endings or terrible decisions and just wander into the middle of nowhere Siberia and get lost and see what that does for the story. Or if it forces you to finally, like, you pass out and then you end up on a truck who takes you back, or what would have happened if we hadn't gone off the train? Would have been like, okay, well, we're here. I guess we go back, and then like nothing happened on the train because I didn't take any choice, beyond the boring ones. I don't know. I have no compulsion to play any of the other games in the series, though. That is the free one. Uh, I don't even actually think that one. Maybe it was one of the giveaways, but GOG.com does have a bunch of free games, mostly demos and stuff. But I think that one might have just been one of the freebies. Probably for good reason. I can't imagine paying for something like that. Okay, well, didn't do a whole lot of game playing. Yeah, it's free amusement, and that's enough. Um, Not enough amusement to pay for it, I guess, or to pay for one of the other stories, especially if the writing is going to be the same. Like, it's just not like compare it to Star Story, right? Which is similar in that it's a choose your own adventure kind of thing. Like it feels like the storyline in Star Story is interesting. Like your choices do matter, whereas Wanderlust is just kind of like there's that main story, and then yeah, like the bolted on side stories that don't really make a whole lot of sense and don't have any purpose. Like, woohoo, we went on a ferry, stressed ourselves out a bit, and then miracle of miracles, we found the guy that we abandoned, which was a stupid decision in the first place. Like, I don't know. It's not a good story anyway, and I think that made it a little bit more boring than it needed to be. Like there's a whole lot of hooks in there at the beginning that seemed like they were going to go somewhere, like, this loud, boisterous Russian with a gold watch who might kill us and is taking us some, like, there could have been a story there that just didn't manifest because, oh, actually he's just a normal guy. Like, take a picture of the lady with no finger. Like, what the hell? And all the relations of the characters, like there was no real character development. Like they hinted a lot about how we were related and what we were doing, but I don't even know why we were there. Like my guess is that Vernon's sister died, who might have been married. Like who was Sarah in relation to the narrator? I don't know. Like the minute he brought in his son-in-law Michael for like that one sentence, it made me think, well, because at first I thought, well, maybe he was married to Susan. Maybe that was his wife. But then he mentions his son-in-law, and it's like, oh, okay, well, that's a new layer now of relationships. So it was like Sarah was the wife of his son-in-law, but she was Vernon's sister, and like we were just going off like, and the whole like, obviously we don't like Vernon, and he doesn't like us. So like we went on this journey to reconcile. Was it my fault that Sarah died? Like, there's a whole story there in the relationship of these people that just was not developed at all. It was just two dudes who hated each other, kind of, on a train, one of which didn't even want to go. And then we just kind of, like, we got really drunk and told each other what we thought, and then kind of got lost, and, oh, well, fuck it, let's just go back home. Like, what kind of story is that? Yeah. The story of Susan was just there, thrown in, just as an aside. I don't know. It's a very weird storytelling. But anyway, um, man, I don't know. I don't know what to do next week. I've still got a bunch of other games in my GOG library that can look at. Might be a little bit more interesting than that. So I guess we can keep doing that. I'm going to have to install a bunch of this stuff because they're very large and they're going to take too long to do for stream, but I can have another batch of games ready to go here. Try those out. Some of these might be interesting. Symmetry, Mabel in the Wood, kind of adventure type games. I don't know. We'll see. Well, you're welcome for that. I'm glad you enjoyed. I don't know. Every time we've played a reading game, or I've played a reading game on YouTube and had a series, I always feel compelled to just poke fun at bad writing, or things that just don't make a lot of sense. Just because it's just more enjoyable to do that, I guess. Making fun of bad movies and bad movie plots. I'm gonna have to watch Mystery Science Theater again. They did a lot of that, heckling the bad movies, B movies. Anyway, it's been 3 hours, so I guess we'll call it here for today. Figure out something else to play next week, and just go from there. The Room, yes. Man, I don't even know what's going on with some of those games. And sometimes I feel like the developers don't know either. But whatever. Okay, well, I will end this one here then. Thanks for watching, and have a good whatever. I will see you next week.